Nitro with the nice flow. Y'all acting like y'all don't know. Stop acting like y'all don't know.
Joe Campbell.
Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Who the future? We the future. Who the future? Us. Causing chaos in the back of the bus. Get your hands up. We gon' show you how we buzz. Yeah. The future.
The future is now on a Suddenly Not So Casual Free Friday. It is September 2nd, 2022. It is week one, Labor Day. College football, knowledge for college, the Shark and the Gun. I'm your host, the Shark. This is my co-host, the Gun in Maryland. Guns Picks. What's going on tonight, brother?
We had the appetizer in week 0. We don't like appetizers. We like the main course. We like the steak. We like the whatever your sides are. You like the loaded potatoes? Do you like the asparagus? Whatever you like. College football is officially back 100%. This week, college football is here. Let's go.
Speaking of college football being back, is there any place to start the week one card than Kidd Brewer Stadium in the Appalachian Mountains of North Carolina? Interstate battle here. Who would have known this 25 years ago? The University of North Carolina at Appalachian State. Game opened on one side. It has moved to the home team. Guns Picks. The home team is on your radar, I believe.
This App State team has been preparing for this UNC team. They are considered the baby brother in the state of North Carolina, but they are not the baby brother in this situation. Listen, App State brings back 12 starters, including their top 2 running backs in Nate Noel and Cameron Peoples, the 1-2 punch. Plus, they bring back Case Bryce. You might remember him from Clemson. You might remember him from last year on App State. I love this kid. I think he's going to have a strong year. And also, they bring back a strong offensive line, 4 starters back. They are ranked number 29th as far as offensive line is concerned. Now, on the UNC side, 5 guys on offense come back. They lose Sam Howell. They lose Ty Chandler. Offense is going to be backing a true freshman here in Drake May. He did look good, but he only looked good against Florida A&M last week. App State wants to run the ball. They averaged 192 yards per game on the ground, 4.7 yards per carry. And UNC struggles stopping the run. Last season, they gave up over 200 rushing yards in 6 of their games, and they gave up 5 yards per carry on the road last season. App State is 5-0 against the spread versus the P5 opponents. With all that being said, you're getting the money line on this one. You're just picking a winner. Give me App State at home, money line, -108 as a play.
Love it, and not waiting around. 4 p.m. Number 23 in the country, Cincinnati Bearcats at Arkansas out of the SEC. Cross conference, a ranked game in week 1. Guns Picks, an official.
I call this game old money versus new money. And new money is Arkansas, old money is Cincinnati. Cincinnati consistently wins every single year. 10 wins, 9 wins, 11 wins. They got to the college football playoff last year. Everybody's writing this team off because they lost Riddler. They lost Ford. They lost a lot of key components of the defensive side. But I still like the Cincinnati team. 8 guys on offense come back, 5 on defense, including their entire offensive line to back up the new quarterback, a transfer from EMU, Ben Bryant. Had some great stats there, over 3,000 yards passing, 68% completion rate. So is there going to be a drop-off from Riddler? A little bit, but they still got a quarterback to fill in the void. Plus, the running game, they bring in Ryan Montgomery, and if you actually look at his statistics, he only had like 46 carries last year, but he had 6.8 yards per carry. That is impressive. I like yards per carry. I am the yards per carry guy. Arkansas, everybody's on their ass, kissing it so much. Oh, SEC team, boo-hoo. 7 offensive starters back, 4 on defense. That's going to really hurt them because they lost 4 out of 5 of their top tacklers from last season and 2 of their top wide receivers. I know this is a running team for Arkansas, and they bring back KJ Jefferson and 4 returning starters from the offensive line. Everybody's kind of kissing their ass because of that. But I think this team with Luke Fickell will rebuild, will be pumped up, and you get him as a dog. Fickell is 8-4 as an away dog at Cincy, while Arkansas is 15-22 in the last 10 years as a home favorite. So I don't believe the hype of the Razorbacks. I trust the Bearcats because they're consistent old money. Give me Cincinnati plus 6.5 as a play.
We were going to continue with Guns picks, but we don't want to run through the entire card on one side and leave me out here in the wilderness for 20 minutes. So I'm going to segue out to my first play. 5:30 p.m. We're going to Nevada, and we're going to the Sun Belt road favorite. This did open as an underdog. It's gotten steam, mostly sharp steam here on Texas State. Official play, Texas State -1. And of course, we are data deficient in week 1, but we do have some data on Nevada. They did play last week, and they did play at New Mexico State. They covered a -9. That game had opened at +17, and it went to 9. They covered it 23-12. Very close stuff there. But I think the takeaway from this more than anything is how pathetic their offense looked. Carson Strong graduated, absolute stud, didn't make the NFL due to injuries and all sorts of stuff. But they could not move the ball against a very useless New Mexico State team. New Mexico State showcased just how awful they are by getting absolutely hammered on Thursday night in Minnesota, 38-0. And I think if you go back to last year, Texas State did start the season with an out-of-conference game on a very similar line around a pick'em at Florida International. Florida International ended up being horrendous last year, but this should tell you a story as to how books have Nevada graded, similar to Florida International last year. Texas State did win that game 23-17, and later on a very similar number in conference at a +2 figure at Arkansas State to close the season. They also won. Those two efforts really tell you a story as to how this team is expected to function and will function on a short, tight, pick'em style number on the road. 1 unit play, Texas -1. I'm going to keep going here. We're going to take James Madison, as we discussed on the video that dropped, and there's over 16,000 views. We thank you guys for your interactions. Powerful, amazing, love, abundant stuff here, and we're ready to dominate and ride the wave. JMU, first FBS game in the team's history. That should tell you in and of itself a very strong story when they are laying points. 5.5, 6 at open, some movement in and out, 4.5 to 6 going through the day-to-day window here. But when you're laying to a Middle Tennessee State team that did backdoor the season last year, I had said they ran the table. They didn't run the table. They won their final game, and then they won a bowl game. But nonetheless, they did finish the regular season at 6-6 for 500, which was far above expectations last year. But key point, they played particularly well in conference late season to get to 6-6. They did start the season 0-3 ATS out of conference on the road last year. And again, this is going to be absolutely raucous. Harrisonburg, Virginia, Bridgeforth Stadium, 2-time national champion in the FCS. I said it before, gates open less than 12 hours from now at 8 a.m. Eastern. And we're going to see a 6 o'clock kickoff. Should be raucous. JMU at -4.5, 5. I'm at 5.5. Any line there is advisable. Next play, 4 p.m. Throwing it back to the gun. USF down in, as you mentioned off the record, hot, sweaty Florida. Hosting BYU, 25 in the country, -11.5. Will BYU be able to function in this heat? Guns, talk to me.
Listen, this UCF team is terrible. They're bad. They've been bad for at least a couple of years. They only had 2 wins last season, but actually, if you look at their against the spread record in the last 2 years, 11-9-1 against the spread. But key point here, they are a home dog in this situation. 5-1 against the spread as a home dog. They're playing in Tampa, baby. We got the temperature, we got the humidity, and it's going to be late afternoon for the BYU Cougars, who love it cool and they love the altitude. So going a little bit further into the USF analysis, they bring in transfer Jerry Bohannon, who takes over under center, who's a great upgrade at quarterback. He was the he's actually played BYU consistently especially last season. If you actually look at what he did, he won 38-24 in that spot, 18 of 28 in passing, 1 touchdown, no sacks. Not great stats, obviously, but he knows the team. He knows how to play against them. Now, USF also is bringing back 19 starters, which is ranked number 1 in experience. There is no more experienced team than this USF team, and they have a chip on their shoulder for only winning 2 games last season. Also, BYU Successful under Kalani Sitake, but they struggle on the road. As an away favorite, they are 4-9 in the last 13. Also, you got to look at the last two games they played in 2019 and 2021, and USF covered both of those games. USF is undervalued here. The line last year was 23, 24 points, depending on how you got it on the closing line. Now it's sitting around 11.5 and 12. That's a key point there. 10-point swing on two teams that played each other last year and bring back most of the guys from last year. Key point. So I'm going to be taking the dog in this one. Give me USF plus 11.5 as the play.
Speaking of dogs, we will go to my next play, 7 p.m. We're taking Army +2 at Coastal Carolina. I had talked about this in week one. Momentum of last year telling a story with a team that is potentially overvalued currently. The Chanticleers of Coastal Carolina reached number 17 in the country last year, starting the campaign 6-0. This is very similar to what UTEP did last year before cratering. And if you look at what the Chanticleers did after going 6-0, they lost at App State and they lost another conference game. But 5 out of their last 7 games were one-possession games. They got real tight, and it was consistently real tight, finishing the season in overtime, a win at South Alabama, and then a bowl game against Northern Illinois out of the MAC. 48-41, back and forth, crazy. Ultimately, NIU probably could have won that game. The Chanticleers had 2 long touchdowns in the back end of the fourth quarter to backdoor that game. Moral of the story here is this team is very overvalued, and people publicly remember them going 6-0 and getting to number 17 in the country. That's not necessarily who this team is. And you look at the other side of this game, Army is far, far better than people think. If you go back to last year, Army played a full road calendar. They were 3-0 ATS on the road as an underdog. They opened the campaign last year, similar scheduling here, at the Sun Belt at Georgia State as an underdog and hammered them 48-10. Slightly later on as an underdog at Big Ten, Wisconsin, which theoretically is a total overmatch for Army. Real tight game, 20-14, and slightly later, another incredibly impressive performance as a road dog at Malik Willis and Liberty. Of course, he has graduated and gone to the Tennessee Titans in the 3rd round, but incredibly impressive stuff. Short line, Army will come in here and give you a representative game. I think Army could win this game fairly comfortably. Army +2, 1 unit. Staying within the Sun Belt, we're taking Arkansas State -25. I actually didn't have this game on my radar originally, and I started looking at Grambling State here. Grambling State out of the SWAC last year played 2 road games in week 2 and 3 out of conference and got outscored a combined 82-0. And we talk about line functionality, but we talk about what lines are telling us. When you see a team, Arkansas State, out of the Sun Belt that is not supposed to be the class of the conference, when this team is laying 25 points to any opponent that's a college football team coming into their stadium, this is a blowout line waiting to happen. And one final point on that, last year, in the opener at home against an FCS team, they did hammer Central Arkansas and cover what was also a fairly egregiously large line. Arkansas State -25, 1 unit. Guns. North Texas, off a win last week, comes back, revenge game against SMU, an official.
So, yeah, this one right here, I know North Texas played last week. I usually like to fade those week 0 teams, but this spot was too sweet for me not to take here. North Texas versus SMU last year, they lost 35-12, but you actually look at the first half of that game. The first half was 7-6, and it was because SMU scored a late touchdown at the end of the half, and then they allowed 4 second half TDs. It was a complete meltdown in the second half. The momentum was sucked out of them, but they were 22.5 dogs in that spot. Now SMU comes into the season without their head coach, Sonny Dykes. He moved on to greener pastures, but brings back Tanner Mordecai. Tanner Mordecai doesn't have his best weapons as far as a wide receiver. That dude loves to throw. He loses 3 out of their 4 top receivers and 2 of their top tacklers on defense. 13 returning starters in that realm. Now, SMU's defense was a liability last season. They gave up 450 yards of offense to their opponents in 7 out of their 12 games. And if you want to go into the trends, home team in this matchup is 7-3 against the spread, 8-2 straight up. And you have SMU that is 3-10 against the spread as an away favorite in their last 13. So with all that being said, you're getting 10 points with North Texas, who played exceptionally well against UTEP last week. I'm going to ride the momentum. Give me the Mean Green plus 10 as the play.
Full alignment here. This is our first alignment play of the show. I believe Guns is also on James Madison. We had mentioned multiple alignment plays. This is our only one we're fully discussing here, both sides for us. I have North Texas at plus 10 as well. And you made the comment going back to the BYU USF game. This is the same type of line functionality. A lot of these teams in week 0 and 1 did not play last year. Some have never played. Some haven't played in 10 years. It's great to find teams that did play last year, and we can look back at recent history and see what happened. The game last year finished at 35-12 on an SMU minus 22.5. They covered it by a hook. Shout to odds makers for being the sharpest people on the planet. And that's why we always look at their lines as opposed to trying to beat their lines. They're telling a story. We follow it. So what is this telling you? After you cover at home at minus 22.5, you should come on the road roughly around 19, maybe 17 or 16 in that range. This comes in at 11.5. Tons of sharp steam coming in on North Texas. And again, if you look at what North Texas did last week, incredibly impressive performance in the second half, complete lockdown defense against UTEP in a blowout win, 34-13. And you look at what happened last year, final point in the game that was played between SMU and North Texas at SMU, that 35-12, that game was 7-6 at the half. It was very tight. The yardage in that game was almost equal. So if you think about that, you lose by over 3 touchdowns by 23 points, almost identical yardage gained. And North Texas actually had more first downs in that game. And SMU got 3 extremely long touchdowns in the second half. I believe an 85-yard run, 29-yard pass, 53-yard pass. So when you really take your hands off the game and you say, what happened here? Basically, they had 3 outlierish plays. They were not dominant. A 22.5-point win would suggest just absolutely bludgeoning each other at the line of scrimmage. SMU totally in physical and strategic control of the game. They were not. They broke a couple long ones, and that was it. This is going to be a tight game. And this absolutely finishes inside of 10 points. North Texas plus 10, 1 unit. Final play for me, 6-pack of plays. Oregon State in Corvallis, 10:30 Eastern, 7:30 Pacific, hosting Boise State. We're at 2.5 here. And what we're looking at here is a very strong line for a team that's expected to have its best team in over a decade. Go back to the last time they played Boise State. It was 2016. So, of course, that is fairly loose, and it's going back to a previous generation of players. But Boise State did absolutely hammer them by, I believe, 18 points in Corvallis. So when you get hammered by 18, same team comes in there and you open up at a field goal. You have to go back to last year. Oregon State was actually 6-0 ATS at home last year. 4-0 in conference, 2-0 out of conference. Very convincing stuff here. And you look at, they're bringing back their starting quarterback, who was a little bit in and out last year, a little sketchy, won the quarterback competition. I think that's good for him. I think he has a lot to prove, and the experience of playing through a full Pac-12 calendar will help him. And I think it'll help him out of conference. Go back to last year. Boise State was 5-1 ATS on the road. However, if you go to the opener, I think this is an interesting corollary point. They played in Orlando, I believe, in Orlando. I'm not sure if it was neutral, but regardless, they played at UCF. I'm pretty sure that was played in Orlando. They lost the game 36-31. They covered the game. It was plus 6.5. However, they came out and they were up 21-0 in that game before getting outscored 36-10 the final 3 quarters. And again, psychologically looking at that game, I think ultimately UCF took them lightly. They didn't come out focused, out of conference game, thought they were going to hammer them. Then they woke up and they absolutely slaughtered them. The line's telling you a story. I think that'll reverse. When you go up 21-0 at UCF last year and you almost don't cover a touchdown line, I mean, this will get there. Minus 2.5 is a great number for us, just south of a field goal. This game will be over 3 points in Oregon State's direction. 6 top plays, 9 words of lifestyle. Ride the wave or get out of the water. Texas State -1 at Nevada, the first game of my card, 5:30 Eastern. James Madison, 6 p.m. Turn the hell up, Harrisonburg, Virginia. First FBS game, collaboration with the gun. Army +2, Arkansas State -25. North Texas, collaboration with the gun, and Oregon State, as we just discussed, at -2.5. The gun, 4 plays on here. App State -1, 12 noon in North Carolina, in one of the most beautiful stadiums you will find in this country, professionally or within college. Cincinnati +6.5 at Arkansas. USF +11.5, hosting number 25 BYU, and the collaboration play North Texas. Free Friday, Labor Day, college football, knowledge for college. Guns, close them out with some words, and let's dominate.
Just want to shout out the chat. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for commenting. Off Grid Sports, Casey, Jack Falk. I see you, dude. Thanks for commenting, and also like, subscribe, share. Let the people know where the sharp angles are, where the sharp place to go on Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We will be doing this every week, and also I'm going to be doing a live Twitter at 10 a.m. to just go over any advice that you want on any plays. Just fire away comments, lifestyle, whatever you bring to the table, I'll be there. Till next time, next Friday, we'll see you. Let's cash. Let's keep dancing. Let's go.